Welcome to the channel, guys. Today we're going to dive into the top 3 trading tips that every trader must know. These are crucial to mastering the game of trading. Whether you're new or you're experienced, these top 3 trading tips will definitely elevate your game. So let's get into it. Tip number 1 is acceptance. Acceptance is such an important part of trading. Most traders fail because they cannot accept a stop loss, and they also cannot accept when they see a good trading setup. So let's dive into it. Number 1, in reference to accepting a stop loss. One thing I want you to think about is the stats that I got from this book called Best Losers Win by Tom Hoover. That was important. So in this book, one of the stats that it dived into was the fact that there's about 25,000 traders that accounted for about 2-3 million plus in trades. I could be getting numbers totally wrong here, but point is there's a nice set of traders, and I want to call it 40,000 traders, and there's about 5 million plus trades, something along those lines. Don't quote me on it, but if you want to figure out the numbers, go to Best Losers Win. That's the book I read by Tom Hoover. And in that book, it really broke down how these traders, out of the millions of trades that they took, think about how many of them were actually profitable. So out of the millions they took, 60% of the trades were actually profitable. However, 40% were losers. So they weren't bad at picking winners. They actually had a nice successful system, 6% win rate, 40% loss rate. That right there on a 1-to-1 ratio obviously can make you money. Talking to a 2-to-1 ratio. Now, however, those traders, out of all those traders, about 80+% of them were still losers, still end up net loss. Why is that? Why do you think that's the case? Obviously that's the case because they hold on to their losers way too long. When you hold on to your losers longer than your wins, it's a recipe for disaster. And if you look into your trading, a lot of traders, a lot of times what slows us down, what eats back into our equity, is if you're holding on to a trade that you know has passed the level or your stop loss area, maybe you have a mental stop, or even if you had an actual stop in the market, then you tend to move it. If you're holding on to that trade, not accepting the fact that this might be a loser, losing again is a part of the game. You have to accept the fact that you're gonna lose trades. And if you're just moving your stop loss every single time that you're trading, then you end up with a bigger loss that then eats into your profits. So when you actually win, you only maybe win on a 1-to-1 ratio, or you win a little bit. When you lose, you're losing more than you're actually gaining. That's why these traders in this book, 60% of the trades are actually winners, but that 40% ate into all their profits and made them net losers. So it's super important that you have to accept the fact that when you're wrong, don't run away from the pain. Take the loss and move on. Cut it quick. The longer you hold on to a trade, the more you just open up the injury and make it more painful. It might be painful to see your trade get hit a stop loss, but if you hold on to that trade longer, what does that do for you? Obviously, it makes the pain even worse. In the moment, you're delaying the pain, right? We talk about delayed gratification, this delayed pain. So you're delaying the pain, moving your stop loss higher if you're in a sell, and the market keeps creeping up there, and you keep on moving it higher. And when you finally accept it, you've done so much damage that not only do you take the loss that you were going to take initially, which would have been smaller than your initial stop loss, now you have a bigger downturn in your equity that you have to now fight against. So now when you take another trade, you have to then work your way back up out of that bigger hole, when you could have just taken a little loss that will then allow you to make that back on the next trade. Now it might take 3-4 trades to get back to that level, which of course, the more you trade, the more you open up yourself to risk and more losses. So it's super important. And also when you remove your stop loss, you're not accepting of your stop loss. What does that do? That increases the chances of you going into tilt, meaning you start taking trades, start over leveraging, trying to make up for the loss that you took. If you're in the profit space, for myself, I know oftentimes, previously, when I was in this rut of not accepting my stop losses or accepting the fact that I'm wrong, I'll end up going into a tailspin, going into a tilt. I'll take a trade, take another trade, take another trade. Next thing I'm at max loss limit for the day. And then what do? I go buy another challenge, because relatively the amount of money I'm paying is not as deep to my pockets. So I'll go ahead and buy another account or buy a reset just to trade again and then take another loss. By the time I take 2 max loss limits on 2 accounts, then I realize, you know what, maybe just a bad day. and I just went on tilt. Now, in that moment, you get so consumed in the moment because you're just trying to make up for the pain. You're not accepting the fact that today you might just be wrong today. You might just be off the game today, and today might not just be the best day to trade. But you want to push the limit, and when you push the limit, sometimes all the time leads to ruin. In trading, less is more. So learn how to accept your stop losses. Learn how to accept your losses, and whenever a trade setup is there, you want to take that trade setup. Okay. Once a trade appears, take the trade setup. Don't be fearful. As long as all of your eggs and all of your models, everything that you expect to happen is lining up, you take the trade. Don't be fearful. Don't let pain get in the way. All right. It's just like Michael Jordan. I think about some of the greatest players in sports. He's basketball. Michael Jordan. He has missed multiple buzzer beater shots, but if the opportunity comes up again, he's gonna take the shot. Because he's trained himself well enough to know that he will make that shot eventually. He has a high percentage of making that shot. You have to be in that mind frame of understanding that, hey, listen, I might have lost the last trade, but if this opportunity presents itself again, I'm going to take the opportunity again. Okay? So it's super important that you understand you have to accept your losses. If you want to be successful in this game, if you want to step up your game, cut your losses quickly. That separates the professionals, separates the winners from the losers. They cut their losses when necessary, accept their stop loss. They don't go on tilt. They learn how to mentally control themselves going on tilt by accepting their stop loss. You have to do those things. Just to conclude this specific point, most traders do not want to feel the pain. They don't want to accept a loss. But again, all that does is make the pain worse. You're better off taking the loss, taking a deep breath, and reassessing what you did, than getting back to the charts. If it hits your stop loss, it hits your stop loss. No need to run away from the pain. Pain is a part of the game. Losing is a part of the game. Accept the fact that you could be wrong. Tip number 2, patience. Now this is huge. Patience has been super huge in allowing me to get to the next level of my trading. Mentally, every single day, I'm thinking about patience. I'm thinking about how I'm going to wait for the right setup. How I'm going to be patient enough to let certain trades pass me by and not take any single trade at all. You have to have the discipline to wait for your setup to form. Too many traders are trigger happy. Once the market's open, they get in there and start pressing buttons. They just want to make money. You have to be different. You have to really wait for your setup to take place. You have to be patient. And guess what? If your setup doesn't take place that day as a day trader, there's no need to try to rush a setup that's not there for you. Be patient. There's an analogy that ICT use, and I'm going to use it here as well. We only want steak as traders. So if you're a smart money trader, or a trader in general, you only want to take steak. You only want steak setups. All right? What do I mean? If you go to a steakhouse, in your mind, you're like, you know what? I want a medium rare steak. I'm in Houston, Texas, so from Steak 48, sizzling hot, off the plate. That's what I want. Nice, juicy steak. And I go there and they say, well, and I say, hey, can I get a medium rare plus or a medium well ribeye? I'm like, sir, sorry, we don't have any steaks today. Oh, really? So that means I must go to another steakhouse. That's what I should do. If they have no steaks and I came there craving a steak, there's no need for me to stay there when they tell me they have no steaks. But what we do as traders, instead of leaving and going to another steakhouse, actually get a steak, right? Or pretty much in trading, instead of just saying, you know what? I don't see any steak here. I'm going to leave the charts. I don't see any setup. I'm going to leave the charts. What do? We say, okay, you know what? You have any steak? Do you have a grilled cheese sandwich instead? Yes, sir. We'll give you that. Cool. And then now they give you a grilled cheese sandwich. And guess what? You pay the same exact price for the grilled cheese sandwich at a steakhouse when you could just walked away. That's what we do in our trading. When you don't see a setup, when you're not patient, you don't see a setup and you start pressing buttons, you're really getting a grilled cheese sandwich at a steakhouse. Paying $80, $90, $100 for a grilled cheese sandwich. This sounds kind of silly. So when you think about it, you want to have the mindset of only taking the best of the best. You want to make sure that when you go to the markets, you're looking for that steak. If it ain't steak, we don't want it. That's the mindset I have. You have to constantly have this mindset of patience, waiting for the right setup. It has to look good. It has to be the real deal. If it's not the real deal, we don't want it. That's the mindset you have to have as a trader. That's what separates the losers and the winners. The winners are able to have the ability to be patient. They might even see setups and let it go because it's not an A1 setup. Sometimes I see setups, I just don't take them because it's not worth the risk. You have to be patient, wait for the best of the best setups. It's super important. If you want to elevate your game, you literally have to incorporate the idea of patience. You have to make sure whatever trade you're taking is stake only. All we want is stake. If it ain't stake, we don't want it. Now, tip number 3, the best losers win, okay? The best losers win. Finally understand this, okay? The best losers are the best traders. Trading is just like life. It's up and down. It's a roller coaster. Things might happen. You know, you might get in a car accident. You might get sick. You know, sometimes it's so tragic that you might lose a loved one. But at the end of the day, you have to keep living. Those that are able to take their downfalls and then formulate that, take that, make them a better person, they're the ones that win in life. Some people, they want to point the finger. Oh, I can't go to work today because I got my tires blowing out, so I'm just going to sit at home. And they get fired for their job. And then you blame the fact that, well, my tire got busted, so I decided to be lazy and not take an Uber and go to work, or call a friend, or do what you had to do in that situation to get to work. You know, or some people just make a bunch of excuses. When at the end of the day, it's life. There's always going to be obstacles. Understand, there's always going to be obstacles. The question is, how do you maneuver around those obstacles? How do you learn and get better from those obstacles or from those losses? Trading, as a trader, it's always going to be, you open up yourself to risk, which means you're always going to lose. There's going to be a chance of you losing. So when you lose, the question is, how do you react? Again, back to the first point. Are you going to accept the loss, learn from it, and then move accordingly? Or are you going to take the loss, or are you going to move your stop loss, get a bigger loss, not accept the fact that it might be losing day for you, and then you trade even heavier, you leverage even more, and then you take a bigger loss and a bigger loss until you blow out? That's exactly what a lot of people do. So you have to understand, the top traders are able to understand and accept losing. As a loser, losers are pretty much winners. When I say that, people that take their losses and make them lessons, they take their losses, they turn their L's into lessons, and you become a winner. You have to have the ability to understand that, yes, you might lose, yes, you might take a loss, but how do you learn from that? What do you then do? How do you pivot from that loss? What work are you putting in? What effort are you putting in to learn from that loss, right? And then use those lessons to then make yourself a winner. You have to have the uncanny ability to take losses and not shiver from it, not shy away from it, and learn. Listen, how many years has LeBron James been playing? How many finals has he been to? Probably about maybe 11. How many has he won? Probably about 4. So 7 times he lost, right? But he is perhaps the best player ever to play. So even if you're on the top of your game, there's going to be losses. But the question is, mentally, how can you pick yourself up? If you don't mentally pick yourself up, no one will. You really have to pick yourself up. You have to take your losses, turn them to wins. Take your losses, turn them to lessons. You have to be mentally strong. And the best traders, the top traders, are constantly learning. They're taking those losses and turning them into lessons. And then they move differently. They set certain rules in place. Like, okay, if I start taking a loss, then I'm going to cut the next trade I take. I'm gonna cut my trade in half. If I take a loss on that, I'm gonna keep cutting my trade in half. So that way I minimize how much I'm really losing when I'm on losing streak. Then they might say, okay, well, when I minimize their losses, because they keep on cutting in half. This is just one idea. You're cutting in half every loss that you take. Every loss that you take, you're making sure that the next trade take is half of that loss, or half of that risk, half of that leverage. You're cutting that down. That's super important. Super, super important. You want to be able to do that as a trader. Everyone loses. You're going to lose. You cannot just always be a winner. Same thing with trading. Just take your losses, turn them to lessons, and then get to the next level. Now, I have an extra tip. This is tip number 4. This is extra. All right. So extra, no extra charge, no extra fee. Ultimately here, as traders, right? whenever you are, most traders, let's talk about most traders, average trader to begin with, whenever they're losing, they tend to trade more. They tend to risk more. They go on tilt and start risking more. Winners, whenever they're winning, that's when they play harder. When they're losing, they cut back. It's just like basketball. If you watch basketball, right, a lot of traders, basketball. If you watch basketball, when a player's hot, once they see the player in the corner, he's open, boom, they pass it to Curry. They pass it to James Harden. He's splashing, right? Whenever they're hot, you're going to feeding him the ball. He's hot, you got to use him. Take advantage. As a trader, it's the same thing. When you're hot, you've seen the markets, you're red hot, you got to keep smacking it. Increase your leverage. That's a perfect time to increase your leverage because you're hot. You're seeing the markets for what it is. The markets are flowing. The markets are in that state where you're making money. You want to actually play harder. What do the losers do? What do the average traders do? When it's hot, they probably just trade the same leverage. But the point I think really matters for in this case is on the cool down, right? When traders are losing, the average trader, when they're losing, they want to risk more. They're trying their best to get back to break even, and then hopefully break profit, which is not likely not to do. Because the more you risk when you're in a losing streak, the more losers you're taking. The more losers, the more losses. You don't want to do that. Better traders, great traders that know what they're doing, the smart money traders are in a different class. When they're losing, they're able to cut down their loss. They don't play their hands stronger when they're losing. Because sometimes the market might just be consolidating. When the market's consolidating, depending on the type of trader you are, that might not be a cup of tea. It might not be a cup of tea. Consolidated markets might be what chops you up and it takes away equity. So the market's not flowing, not moving, but yet you're pressing the leverage, you're increasing your leverage, you're taking a loss after loss after loss. All the profits you made for the month could just dwindle down. You want to cool off. You want to have the ability to cut your losses, make them smaller. When you're losing, when you're in a losing streak, you want to have the ability to reduce how much leverage you're putting on your trade. You have to have these mental frameworks to understand, okay, I'm losing now. Let me go ahead and cut my leverage or cut my trades in half. If I usually trade 5 contracts, I'm gonna trade 2 contracts now. If I lose again, I'm gonna trade 1 contract. You have to have the ability. But when you're hot, when you're on a winning streak, the turn up, right? When you're on the winning streak, then you want to increase your leverage when you can to a suitable level. Obviously, don't blow yourself out the water, but when you are winning, that's when you want to actually increase your leverage versus when you're losing. When you're losing, be humble enough to understand you're in a losing streak, and it's okay. That happens to the best of us. All the years Michael Jordan played in the NBA, he didn't win every single championship. He only won 6 out of all the years he played. LeBron James only won 4 out of all the years he played. These are still considered the best in the world. Muhammad Ali lost a couple fights. He didn't win every single fight. So you have to understand, as a winner in general, you have to have the understanding that it's important to know that losses are going to come. Accept those losses. Turn those losses into lessons. Get better. And when you're hot, play harder. We talked about 4 different tips. One was acceptance, patience, and then the best losers win. Learn from your losses. And really, last, I gave you an extra one there, where it's a cool off and the turn up. If you can master these principles, you'll be well on your way to becoming a more successful trader and a better trader. So if this was helpful, follow the channel for more. Like, subscribe. It'd be super helpful. Catch you on the next one. Talk to you later. Gloss straight out.